Welcome to my channel. Please hit like, share, and subscribe. In this video, we'll be discussing the tragic ending of Arthur T. Boy Ross. Arthur T. Boy Ross was born on February 28, 1949. He was the fifth child out of 6 children, including Diana Ross, Fred Ross Jr., Wilbert Ninja Ross, Rita Ross, and Barbara Ross. Arthur was an American singer and songwriter, most notable for his collaborations with Leon Ware and for being the younger brother of legendary American entertainer Diana Ross. Born in Detroit, Michigan, Arthur hung around the rougher sections of Detroit, while his older sister went on to fame as lead singer of the Supremes in the 1960s and later solo fame in the 70s and 80s. Shortly after Diana had established herself on her own, she recruited T-Boy into Motown as an appointed songwriter in 1972. Ross hooked up with songwriter Leon Ware, and together the duo wrote hits for acts such as Michael Jackson, The Miracles, and Marvin Gaye, including 2 other classics, I Want to Be Where You Are and I Want You. T-Boy was considered hard to deal with when high on drugs and alcohol. His tough exterior made him difficult to deal with amongst those in the control rooms and led to his fallout with Ware during recording sessions for Marvin Gaye's I Want You album. T-Boy in 1979, set on becoming a singer, released his first album for Motown. Despite help from artists like Joe Sample, it only sold 12,000 copies. Fed up with the industry, T-Boy retired from music in the early 80s, where he lived in seclusion, away from home, away from family members, including Diana. During the weekend of June 23, 1996, police found the decaying bodies of Ross and his wife, Patricia Ann Robinson, in a rotting basement inside another person's dilapidated home in Oak Park, Michigan, an impoverished suburb of Detroit. The 2 of them were reportedly found bound and gagged and died of suffocation. There are also rumors that he and his wife were kidnapped from their house and brought to an empty house where they were beaten and smothered. It was also said that after being beaten and smothered, 3 pit bulls were released on them and their bodies were mauled and eaten. When Diana found out about her brother's death, she was devastated and afraid for herself and the family. In an article, it was said that she went into hiding. She had also heard horror stories about T-Boy using her name when he got into trouble with some unsavory people. Officials said T-Boy and his wife were killed over an alleged dispute over money. The bodies had not been found until 2.5 to 3 weeks later. Diana was fearful that drug lords were involved in Arthur's death and that they were going to go after her and her children. Diana did not attend the funeral of her brother. Instead, she sent 24-year-old Tracy Ross to read a poignant message to the gathering of 150 people at the Greater Grace Temple in the family's home city of Detroit, Michigan. In it, she wrote of her utter devastation and broken heart. While she had a glorious 35-year career and earned a $50 million fortune, had worldwide fame and 150 hit records, he was a songwriter who became bitter and angry for not having a successful music career and turned to alcohol and drugs. Friends say Diana was torturing herself with guilt over her brother's tragic death. A close relative said, "She is trying to cope for the rest of the family, but she is finding it extremely difficult. She is haunted still by the death of Florence Ballard." T-Boy never forgave Diana for leaving Detroit, since her departure became a catalyst for the legendary Tamla Motown Records moving out of the city. For struggling Black songwriters in Detroit, Tamla had been their way out of poverty. The jealousy began privately during T-Boy's childhood in Detroit, where he used to hang out with his gang and was nicknamed T-Bone because he loved steak, a name which became T-Boy as a spiteful joke. He was also known from the age of 11 as brother of one of the Supremes, and he grew to loathe it. In the early days, at least, he and the family were content to wallow in the glow of Diana's phenomenal success. As a big sister, Diana was always generous towards him. Arthur told a friend, lawyer John McKay, that Diana would line up her brothers, sisters, and other relatives backstage after a concert and hand them all white envelopes containing money. As a 20-year-old student, he was involved in an incident with a policeman in Alabama, which ended with the officer firing a shot that went inches past Arthur's face. A high-powered lawyer, paid for by Diana, managed to get the charges dropped. There was a short stint as a high school teacher, and after that was when Diana opened doors at Motown to get him a recording contract. It was a path that may have led to Arthur's downfall. He thought he wasn't getting the respect he deserved from his peers. He began feuding with Diana. He accused Marvin Gaye of stealing his music. Then he fell out with Motown, and Diana sided with her record label against her brother. In the end, after Diana had given up on her brother, his absence was obviously still a loss to her. At the lavish family dinners hosted by the star at her multi-million-dollar Connecticut mansion, Arthur was always absent. The day after his body was found, Arthur had been doing court on drug and gun charges. Detectives had picked him up in his car with bags of heroin, cocaine, marijuana, and a loaded 9mm semi-automatic pistol. Arthur told officers he was intending to trade the drugs for sex at a party. He was also in town to pick up a royalty check. Two men were charged with the murder of Arthur Ross, brother of Motown pop star Diana Ross, and his wife. The prosecuting attorney of Oakland County, Michigan, said, charged were Ricky Brooks, 44, and Ramel Howard, 22, both of whom are held without bail in Oakland County Jail, officials said. On June 22nd, we don't know what happened on June 22nd, but that was the end of the story. His killers were found. However, they never put out, gave us really a definite motive for the murder of Diana's brother. And it seems like she was very devastated over the death of her brother. Not only did T-Boy contribute the 3 classics, I Want to Be Where You Are, I Want You, and Never Can Say Goodbye. He also wrote After the Dance, which was also covered by Marvin Gaye and later on El DeBarge. So if you ask me, from those 4 songs alone, he was super talented. It just didn't turn out the way he wanted it to. But R.I.P. to Arthur T. Boy Ross. And thanks for watching my video.